attempted murder.
His
This
knife
is a little bit uncensored.
didn't open.
It shows it right here. Like he looks at it, like right there.
Oh, jeez.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so
It's child sex work. It's like, who are you to try to support mutilating a child's private part at the age of 3 when that child can't tie their own shoe?
Then after I, received like a spiritual gift, it was pretty cool because like I didn't realize I was actually doing it until after the fact, and
Because it's a good question.
It
It's
is.
like,
Yeah.
can Christians support the death penalty?
all right, guys, welcome back to the Five Guys podcast. We are trying a different format today. So
weird.
yeah, we haven't
It
done
felt
that so
weird.
long.
It felt nostalgic hearing your voice.
But yeah, we have a different format today, so we're gonna try to follow along and see how it goes. So we have notes that we have here, each one of us, and I guess we'll kind of jump into what our notes are. So these are the topics at hand. We have Bishop Marmari viciously stabbed during service in Sydney.
That was also recommended from my boy too as a topic because he wanted to hear our opinion on it too.
Nice. We also have something in regards to Dr. Phil. Audience laughs at trans activist says 3-year-old knows who they are. Coming up third, we have California lost track of $24 billion spent in combat homelessness. Thoughts on protesters who block off roadways. Is their actions causing more harm than good? And last but not least, we have a fun fact in regards to, what is that, anglers?
Anglerfish, maybe?
Anglerfish.
It's very disturbing
mating.
how they mate. The fish that live like deep down in the sea with a little lantern on their head,
Yeah.
they mate
Oh.
very disturbingly.
anglerfish.
You know what, dude? And
Finding
think,
Nemo.
I think when you
Yeah.
sent out this thing, the notes, I
you saw it?
kind of read
It's
up on it, and I'm
disturbing.
like, wait, what?
Yeah. It's
But
disturbing.
did I press play on this? Okay. Yeah, before we dive into these topics, I'd just like to say a quick thanks to everybody that's been supporting us. We dropped our merch about 2 weeks ago, and we've seen a lot of support from our supporters and family and friends, and we just want to say thank you, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, we have, as of right now, we have 5 shirts left.
5 shirts.
4 double XLs and 1 small, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to buy those double XLs, you don't even have to be double XL. You could just crop top it or just use it to lounge around the house. I know a lot of us have shirts where you just put it on just to lounge around. We never take it out, and that could be a good replacement.
Get bigger.
Yeah. But yeah, actually, I want to talk about something on that. While we were, at least from my experience, because some we ship out and some are local pickups. Majority of them are local pickups. But what a lot of people are saying that they appreciate the fact that we are willing to talk about God out loud on a podcast or in person. Because from what I was getting, I'm not going to say any names or anything like that. Keep everything private. But one of the individuals I was delivering the shirt to, it's like I'm trying to get closer to God. So it's nice to know that somebody else that I know of is also already has like an ongoing relationship with God or is talking about God. So it's very comforting to that person that they have somebody, as in, hey, I'm not by myself. Hey, they have their stories. And that's just something I wanted to share because, like, to anybody that's listening, it's like nowadays it is kind of scary, like trying to talk about God because you don't know what people are going to think about you. People treat you differently with different views because I know the Bible goes a lot against what the world is turning into. And how people act in public and what they do, and it's very. When you're a follower of Christ, you become very against the earth, the world, because people's worldly desires of how they want to live their life, it isn't very biblical, and people get upset at the Bible because it's the truth, and a lot of people don't like the truth or being put on the spot, and I think the Bible does a really good job at that, is holding people accountable. So definitely, I know how it feels to step into your faith with God. And for everybody who bought a shirt and talked about it, it's like we want you to know, like, hey, we're all in this together. We're all trying to find God our own separate ways. Some people take longer. Some people take shorter. Some people just dive in and just get scared and back out because they think about, am I diving into this faith alone? But from what I hear, it's like, hey, it's nice to have that comfort from the podcast. I just wanted to mention that.
And I feel like there's a lot of us, and I say us because I feel like, I was one of those people as well. And when we started this pod, I feel like you guys are a lot more knowledgeable than me your spiritual journeys and whatnot, and I'm starting mine, and I'm coming into my faith, and I know that there's been people coming up to me and, hey, I really appreciate you, speaking on the topics that you're speaking about, and it's pretty cool to see, and it's kind of crazy to see that I'm where I'm at now, because before I was almost saying like I don't have a religion, or I'm like atheist. I didn't have like a belief in Christ, or I knew that it was there because I grew up Catholic, but I never really followed it, and I never really like believed. And now I'm coming into my faith, and I'm like, wow, I'm in a position to where I can speak about it, and I'm learning about it, and people are coming up to me and are very appreciative that we're all on different journeys. So we're each giving like a different perspective. I'm coming from a viewpoint of like kind of questioning and kind of finding my way, and you guys are also finding your paths. But it's cool that we can all get together and I guess have a voice and have the people kind of tune in and hear our perspectives, whereas they can kind of, I guess it almost kind of helps them out too.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, this experience has been pretty cool. And one of my friends purchased a shirt to support us. You know who you are. You guys know who they are. But what was really cool is we were just having a conversation about reading the Bible. And what was cool, she shared this like story, and she was like, I feel like I was meant to find your podcast and to like meet you, because I had been praying a lot and like trying to reestablish my relationship with Jesus and going to church and reading the Bible more. And she I showed her our podcast and sent some videos that I thought were going to be like helpful or insightful for her. And she was like, oh my gosh, like a lot of the things that you guys are speaking about have been things that I've been praying about and talking to friends about, and like just kind of shared a little bit more of her story, which I thought was like pretty cool. And in that funny story too, since we're like talking about it, I love the questions and the skepticism that you've always provided, because as like somebody who's been in their faith for some time, I mean those questions still come to mind, and there's still that skepticism. And what was cool is because I was also not questioning like, oh, am I gonna drop God or not, but more of like, okay, like I should be doing more, speaking more about my faith, and reading the Bible a little bit more. And literally the other day, me and my son were getting done at daycare, because I work at daycare at a church. I volunteer and help out with all the kids. I was coming out, and some dude who works at the church that I've seen but I haven't spoken to at all came up to me, and he was like, hey, are you going to the men's breakfast on Saturday, which is the first Saturday of every month? And I was like, yeah, I could be there. And he was like, cool, Pastor Mark wants you to prepare a message for the men there. And I was like, I've never.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And I haven't done that in so long, but it was just so random. And at first I was caught off guard and a little shocked, because I was like, instantly was trying to save myself a little bit because I was uncomfortable. But and so now, and then I've had a couple, because this happened like 2 weeks ago, I've had a few of the men who attend that breakfast come up and ask me if I'm preparing a message, or or telling me that they're excited to see me speak. And I was like, oh my gosh. So prayers were answered, and now I'm giving a message. So that's going to be kind of cool, to a bunch of men at the church and have breakfast, and we'll see how it goes.
Oh, it's coming up.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's the first Saturday of
Let us
May.
know how it goes.
Yeah. You guys can come.
Oh,
They make free breakfast.
on this Saturday?
No, the first Saturday of May.
The first Saturday. If I'm available, because I may or may not have work. You know how my work schedule is.
If I could go, I'll go.
Yeah.
Like simple, straight up. If I'm randomly busy or whatever, like but I'll go if I can.
Yeah.
I'd be down.
I know, but it was so random. But anyways, all that to say, yeah,
We gotta pull up with our 5 guys.
yeah, it's been super cool. And yeah, dude, honestly, I can keep talking about some of the conversations that I've had, but we'll go.
The experience of the podcast, talking to an audience, has already kind of mentally prepared you for that already?
Kind of, man. Yeah, in the sense where, I was asking for more, right? And something I've been praying about more, because I was like, similar to Javi, I was like, I feel kind of stagnant right now. Like, I feel like aside from the pod, I don't do my due diligence as a believer. I pray every night, but like I don't get that much into the word. And I was just like, I just want to be closer and I just want to read more. And I've just like been so busy that it's been hard to like find that time. But this was like a cool, I mean, this situation itself was just random. Like I was not expecting that. I haven't been to a men's breakfast. I've been out of town for most of them. And so it was like, this is my first time going to a men's breakfast now.
And you're speaking.
And I'm speaking. So my prayers were answered, but I think in the best way, because I also found a notebook randomly because I was having leadership meetings all week and taking notes on stuff. And I found a book and I was like, dude, I don't even know where I got this book. And I opened it and it's a bunch of my Bible notes. And dude, this is a pink leopard notebook. Leopard print notebook. And so I was like, whose is this? And then the first page I opened, it's a few of my notes from when I was a youth pastor. And I was like, oh my gosh, like just everything's aligning. The stars were aligning. I was like, okay, I'm seeing what you're doing. I'm hearing, I'm starting to listen to you. And so all these little signs, and then the podcast obviously helped spark a lot of that too, because I'm just hearing a bunch of stuff and seeing things that I've been praying for, which has been super cool. And I think just like being able to connect with people who are now like, hey, we appreciate you guys speaking on this topic and talking about your faith and all that, because it's just making the conversation more frequent.
Right.
And comfortable too for anybody who's new to it too.
Yeah.
And that's something I was going to dive into a little bit before we move on to the next section is, I think you guys saw it. I think you guys liked it. Where I posted my Bible on my Instagram story. I want to start doing that a little bit more often. Not like, just to show people like, not a reminder, but like, it's okay to read the Bible.
Exactly.
It's okay to read the Bible. And I'm not saying it's not, but sometimes people forget to read the Bible. And a lot of people, and this is no disrespect to anybody at all. This is just basic knowledge in a way of how it works. But you can only do so much by praying. You can only do so much by going to church. And the other, like 50% of the work is reading the Bible. In that way. And I think a lot of people forget to open up the Bible. It's there, and it's hard to get into it. And I'll testify, it's really hard to get into it. It's building a new routine into your life because, as they say, it's the daily bread. That's himself. That's Jesus himself in the Bible. And I think a lot of people, they forget. And I'm start trying to do that a little bit more. But when it's my time with God, I kind of keep it to myself. I don't like taking pictures of it because it feels like I'm trying to put it out there. Oh, no, it's not like that. It's more like, hey, daily reminder, go read your Bible. I'll read it out in the sun sometimes. But that's just something I want to input as a little reminder, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, with that statement, we're all busy. We all have busy lives.
Yeah.
We're all, like, I'm recently going through it right now where I'm
Triples.
doubling, I'm tripling.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to find a balance of like when I can say my prayers, when I can start, continuing to build that relationship with God. So, and I'm sure our viewers have, kind of the same question.
Yeah.
So what do you guys do to, I guess, incorporate God in your daily life, in your day-to-day life?
I'll make mine a fast priority. He's my first priority. It's like, and it's a little bit different because I don't have to report to a company. Like I don't work for anybody. I'm self-employed in that way. So I have more of a flexible schedule where I don't have to wake up at 6 a.m. and go to sleep at 1 a.m. Sometimes I'm up till 5 a.m. and wake up, at 10 a.m. or something, or 11. I know my schedule's a little bit weird, but whenever I wake up, I try to make that one of the first things I do. Sometimes I'll eat first and then I'll read it just so the food gets settled because I have my own like routine on how to go to the gym with not a full stomach and stuff like that. But I just prioritize as my first priority because I know if I put Jesus first, if I put the Bible first, he's going to give me more time throughout my life and my day. Because if I put him last, then being in a relationship with anybody, if you put that person last, they're going to put you last.
Exactly.
If you put them first, he's going to put you first. But that's just mine.
You know what? And I like that perspective. I feel like, the generation now, the first thing that you do when you wake up,
Swipe up on your
phone, check your DMs, check to see if anybody's posted something interesting.
And it's not even anything actual. It's just a routine.
Exactly.
It's doom scrolling.
And at the end of the day, what is that going to do for you?
Yeah.
So, I guess a good way I never really, when I do wake up in the morning, I do say like a quick prayer, but then, and then I jump into like, okay, or like, Yeah, so I guess what I could start implementing is, first thing I wake up in the morning and maybe read a verse or two in the Bible and start off my day with that. Kind of sit on that for a few minutes, think about what was
Yeah.
said in that verse, and
Because we do have time as human beings.
exactly.
Like
It's
we
just you got to
do.
make time
Like
for
we
it.
do. You could, while you're on the restroom, you're using the bathroom, bring out the Bible, you're sitting down, don't doom scroll. If you're being
Yeah.
productive, sending out emails, it's work. Understandable. But there's one point in your day where you're just doom scrolling, you're playing a game, you're having a conversation that's not benefiting you, like
Right.
a useless conversation. Replace that with the Bible. And
Yeah.
I can't carry a book with me. Okay, they have the Bible app.
Yeah.
This is why I see it.
What I do is I kind of, because I've been traveling to San Francisco to
Yeah.
work a lot, so I'll start off my day, with my typical routine of like, oh, alarm, okay, let me check real quick, take like 2 minutes. Like I try to not do it, but I do it, and do my little morning routine, and then I don't say my prayers or anything until I'm like in the car driving, because it's like a hour and a half drive. So then before I turn on like the music or anything or jump into a podcast, I'll say a quick prayer and have a conversation with God. And then after that is when I get into like, okay, I'll throw on a podcast or I'll listen to music or whatever I want to do to keep the time passing, I guess. But yeah, that's how I kind of do it. But I do like that idea of as soon as you wake up, open up the Bible, and that's something that I haven't really been like adamant about. I've been more focused on prayer, and I do need to open up the Bible because it's better to know, or that's literally the word. So
it's him talking to you.
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm also practicing, or not practicing, but recalibrating my routine as well. But yeah, the Bible app was always so useful because it literally just pops up on your phone. I mean, if it works, it works. I think there's obviously something more powerful about reading a normal book. Yeah, a hardcover or just an actual book. But the Bible app was always super helpful because it's one thing that pops up and they send you, daily verses, which was super cool. But I think like one thing too is like I'm similar to you. Like first thing in the morning, like I'll wake up, I'll check all my media because I have to, work messages, etc. And then I'll make a cup of coffee. And when I could sit down, I'll just like kind of give a quick prayer, just saying like, dude, thanks for another day. Super sick. Just so that I'm like aware of it. And honestly, I've really been trying to press into my routine and make it more integrated these last couple of weeks since we've been on the pod. But the reason I do it in the morning is because now I have like an awareness for it throughout the day. And I've just been seeing like some cool stuff where I'm like, oh my gosh, like I probably wouldn't have recognized that or noticed that. I mean, even driving from downtown on, I want to say El Dorado towards the north side, there's like a sign that literally is like talking about Jesus or something like that. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I should have took a picture of it. But I was driving, obviously, so I didn't. But tomorrow I will. But I was like, oh, that's a dope sign. Like I was like, cool, that's something that's relevant. And that's those secret messages that kind of just get put in your face. And even today, I mean, my Stockton mama, I talked to her today, and then this message just led to, because my little sister had a softball game, so that's where I came from before here. Nice. But what's really cool is she is a huge fan of the pod. Like she watches our clips, and she always asks how it's going. She's like, "Oh, those are your shirts, etc." Like, cool. And she, kind of is getting back into her faith as well. And I was just talking to her about my little sister and how she's doing because she had a boyfriend. They broke up. And just kind of like seeing how that went. And she was like, yeah, actually, like our friend has been taking us to church, and Emma's been going to church, and she's actually been reading the Bible and like kind of finding that way to cope with her breakup instead of other ways, like rebounding or whatever, and that to me was another cool sign because I was like, oh, wow, that is like cool. So it's just been like one sign or one conversation after another talking about God. and some of them stem from the podcast.
Mm.
Some of them just being like, dude, like I've been actually like thinking about these things, and you guys talk about it, and that was my sign. I'm like, dude, this is my sign that you're talking to me about it, you know, because it's just affirmation, I guess, at the
Exactly,
end
and
of the
that
day.
makes us, want to continue to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as far as the routine goes, I mean, I also just find myself throughout the day. It's not like it's very spontaneous sometimes. First thing in the morning, always, have my prayer. The Bible app is super cool. Read that verse just so that I'm starting my day off fresh and giving thanks to another day of life. But throughout the day too, I find myself just having small moments where I'm just like, thank you. Just a quick little like, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, or it's
And-
like little situations that you see or you go through, and you're like, oh, thank you, God, for, the opportunity that you gave me today to come and work in the city, or to even get a job today, or whatever it is.
Yeah, like just gratitude. And the catchphrase I've been saying lately is like, I see what you did there. Yeah, and it wasn't just like, it just came out of nowhere. Like, I don't usually say that about anything, but lately I've just been like grateful, and I just kind of like laugh because I'm like, I see what you did there. Because
Yeah.
it's just,
That's funny that you say that too, because I feel like the past couple of days I've been getting, I guess I'm calling it being tested, and like in prayer, for some reason I've been hearing patience, a lot of patience. You need patience, and I've been going through. I have a new car, and it seems like it's one thing after another with that, and I just got it back from the shop, and it looks like my rims are scratched, and I'm like, okay. And I'm all frustrated about it, and I'm like, just getting really pissed off. And I'm like, you know what? I need to have patience. I need to just take a step back and think, and don't get angry, really, at the end of the day. And I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing. Testing my patience. Let me practice patience.
Gotta leave your worries and anxieties to God most of the time. I think a lot of us forget that because a lot of us want to control the situation, but something you can't control. You just have to let life process the way it goes and just hope and pray for the best. But talking about hope and praying about the best, you guys want to move on to the next one?
Yeah, let's go ahead and dive into.
Have you guys seen the video?
I have, yes.
Have you seen the video?
I have not.
Gotcha. For anybody who was wondering what topic we're going to go into next, it's Bishop Marmari was there was an attempted murder going on during his sermon in a Sydney church. Hopefully when I'm editing, I know how to prompt it up correctly on the screen to, I guess, get John's reaction, because you and I already know what's kind of going on, but we're going to see your reaction, I guess, live for the first time. But here it is.
Buckle up, buddy boy.
Just preaching.
Oh, no way.
And then he just started like going at it. But I could find a different video, and that was after the riots.
Wow, that was 0 to 100 like real quick.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to bring the person, this guy right here, outside so they could take care of him. Like, the people outside wanted the cops to bring him so they could take care of him.
And that's such an evil smile right there. That's so. Really quick though, I believe that he was speaking on
PBD?
no. Well, the bishop
Bishop was speaking.
Marmari was speaking on Muslims, I believe, something amongst those lines, and I believe the guy that attempted to murder him was a Muslim, and I think that was speculation. Maybe you can fact check me right there.
I think so. Bishop Mar, he went on the podcast with George Janko, PBD. That one, he said some stuff directly towards the Muslims, and that was his reaction to it. I'm pretty sure I don't know all the things about it, but you are on the right track on that.
Okay, cool. And yeah, and then apparently, sorry, I got sidetracked with what you were doing, but apparently
my fault.
the guy with the attempted murder,
Hold on.
his
This
knife
is a little bit uncensored.
didn't open.
It shows it right here. Like, he looks at it, like right there.
Oh, jeez.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
He
so,
looked at it like,
yeah. So
it didn't-
apparently his knife didn't open. So the first 3 or 4 were just his fists really just hitting him.
Yeah. Like
and
the
then he
butt of the
looked at
knife.
it and he pressed it, and then it came out, and then he did get hit a couple times. But
wow.
really quick, I just want to jump into
One more time.
Yeah, you can see him like look at it.
Yeah, and then he's like, What the heck?
Yeah, and then I believe
Ugh.
he was able to get it open right there.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So it's just
Yeah.
crazy. But I would like to get into what Bishop Mari said after. He's in recovery now. He's doing better, so that's good news.
Mm-hmm.
And he also said, in regards to the situation, you can't fight evil with evil. You fight evil with good. And I feel like that's a really strong quote coming from him in regards to the situation that he just went through.
Oh yeah.
So at the end of the day, I mean, it's just like what all the disciples,
Apostles, but yeah.
what they went through. I mean, they've all had a really strong faith in God, and they were criticized and ridiculed and all that, and some of them even murdered.
Imprisoned. Right? Yep.
So, I mean, and they were trying to do, good for everybody. So
It's
at the end of the day,
this is the truth that people don't like.
at the end of the day, it's those people that you have to really, I guess, say a prayer for and hope that they find the light.
Did you also hear that after they had arrested him and stuff like that, he put his hands on him and started praying for him?
Really?
On the person who was
Wow.
attempted murder.
Even though he was injured.
Yeah, and he's over here injured and stuff like that. And he's over here like he's praying for them like that. Like you know how much strength it takes for a man of God to do that. Most of us, if you're working out right and
honestly,
somebody just swings on you, what's your first thing that you're gonna do?
I'm gonna swing back.
You're gonna swing back.
If
I mean, that
somebody-
person
yeah.
might break their fist trying to hit you, but
Literally, if somebody
like, whoa.
pulls a gun on me, I'm gonna do everything that I can to get away from them, or
Fight or flight.
fight. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like,
and thank God he didn't get injured, like critical, but the
Killed,
fact that he
yeah.
has that power just to like that self will just to put your hands on the person who literally tried to kill you 5 minutes ago and pray for them.
Yeah.
that's insane.
Yeah.
That's like the true like
Props
will
to
of
him.
like
Yeah,
Really?
that's intense. I mean, the video itself, but yeah, just the strength and power behind him. I guess like just having such an unshakable faith in living the way that we're supposed to live. It kind of just the word that popped in my head, it was like the crucifixion. You know what I mean? When Jesus was hanging on the cross and he died for our sins and, still came back to save us. And all his love, he was just for us. You know what I mean? And even praying to God, saying like, that we still deserve a chance is amazing. And so that's cool that he even did that, because I think similarly to you, it would be like, okay, it's either me or you, survivor of the fittest at that point. But also just like not only the strength of character in like him, but like what he exemplified in that moment to everyone who probably was like, we should all
Gang up
get
on this
this
guy.
dude.
I think they either did or they wanted to do it, but they were talking about cutting off his fingers, like the right outside.
Oh, I heard about that.
Yeah, and that already shows the anger with the world towards that person.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, I don't know, exactly. I didn't mean to interrupt, but like
No.
what you're going on. It's like the strength that he displays of that example.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's just a huge testimony in itself. And I think I hope that people see this video, and I know they're going to be upset, but just see like the true power behind the whole situation. Not only the pastor like showing strength in his faith and still like loving the individual and praying for him, but also like to the crowd, like, hey, like kill him with kindness, as we stated before.
I just want to be like the devil's advocate and come back to the quote that he said, you can't fight evil with evil, you fight evil with good. Because there's a lot of evil people out there, how are we going to fight that with just being good when evil is going to always be there? We could pray for them to come around, but what if they don't?
Think that ultimately just relies on God's plan.
And then because kind of like my question is like, what do we do about that? Because we can sit back and pray for them, and we want them to find the light, and we wish the best upon them, but then sometimes it doesn't. So those people are going to be around. It's like, okay, what
Well,
do we?
so I think in the book, in the gospel, it talks about don't cast your pearls to the pigs because they'll trample you.
Mhm.
That's basically talking about don't preach or don't engage to anybody about biblical knowledge if they don't want to be taught, or else they're gonna trample you. And I guess not that's an example, but you've seen in every not you've seen, but there's situations that we've seen online where you see somebody trying to preach the gospel and somebody starts yelling at them, gets like crazy towards them, cursing
Mhm.
at them, almost starts like people
Hostile.
throwing hostile. They'll throw drinks at them, and that's an example of, and that's a very minor example from the big threat that you're talking about, how people become evil.
Mhm.
But this is just infuriating somebody's soul because they don't want to learn the truth of the word. And I think that would be similar of the truth is the light, and the light that we're trying to preach, which is fight it with positivity. No,
Mhm.
don't fight evil with evil, but fight it with love and love. And I don't have another word for it, but I'm just gonna go with love. And I think that's the equivalent of, we can't save everyone. Kind of, I believe we said it that last time
Mm-hmm.
on other topics, is that we can't save everybody because at the end of the day, it's God's plan, and He knows which individuals are going to go down His route
Mhm.
by with fulfilling God's plan. And with that, there's times where we can't cast our pearls to the pigs, our knowledge, our love to them, because they're just going to try and trample us already. So I think it's picking and choosing the right battles of who looks like they want to be saved or who looks like they might be lost.
So we kind of just.
Leave it to God in a way, because He knows, like, for example, it speaks powerful words that that He put His hands on prayer for him, and they both survived, everything like that. And who knows, that might be that gentleman's turning point, the person who attempted murder. That might be his turning point. After that, he might give his life to Christ. You never know. And I know people might think that's crazy talk, that's that, but yeah, it's the power of Christ, bro. Like, you don't know how powerful He is, of what He could
Right.
do to your life and completely
Mhm.
turn around in a 180 direction. And there's all those stories about how people give their, like, drug addicts and everything like that. And
Yeah. And I think also just like, sorry, I didn't
no,
mean to
you're
cut you
fine,
off
man.
either, but like even Jesus himself, I mean, in all the stories in the Bible, like Jesus was mistreated numerous occasions, locked up in prison, tortured, um, and I would say hazed by society, but he basically was. And I mean, even down to his last day, he still prayed for everybody,
Yeah.
even if they mistreated him, and was still willing to die for the sins and ask for forgiveness on their behalf. And I think that in itself is kind of like the point, is like, despite like we might not be able to save or turn anybody, but that doesn't mean we stop praying for these individuals and hoping that God, well, we continue our faith that God will reach them at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And yeah, like Rob said, like, although we might not be able to witness it, right, because
Yeah.
we might not have the relationship with this individual, or if it's a stranger, we might never see them again, but just having that unshakable faith in God and Holy Spirit, that there will touch him in the ways that he needs to change. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of just like what I thought of right now, is because I'm like thinking of how much punishment and
Yeah.
harassment Jesus went through, up to his dying days, and well, his flesh. But
It's to expand your story on that real quick. To take one step back about, I didn't catch his name, but the guy who attempted murder, did attempted murder attempted, whatever it's called.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Is that he experienced trying to kill somebody, and then 5 minutes later, that same person is praying for you. This person's probably gonna go to jail. I don't know if he's gonna make it in jail or prison or whatever's gonna happen to him, because I know sometimes inmates take care of each other, take
Right.
care of each other in prison. And then there's also programs. I don't know what they're going to charge him with, everything like that, if he's gonna have access to other things. But what I'm trying to say is who knows if in prison he finds God.
Mhm.
That there's so many signs in front of his face, like, hey, bro, you just try to kill somebody, that person prayed for you. Hey, you got in a fight in prison, but we're offering you the ability to, partake in. I'm not sure if they have like prison sermons, but I know they have things like with a Bible study
Mhm.
Like
or some sort
chapel.
of, a little chapel in prison. And who knows if that's his direction, if it's 20 years from now, because that guy looks pretty
Young.
youthful, like
He
Yeah.
looks really
mid
young.
20s our age.
Mhm.
And who knows, by the age of 65, he gives his life to Christ. And it took longer. That's his journey, that's his route.
Mhm.
But still, like, the living testimony and proof that no matter where you are in life, no matter how old you are, you still can always give your life to God, no matter how bad you've done.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess we're all followers of Christ. And I guess we can close it out with this question. The death penalty. Well, just
But close out the pod.
no.
Or
Close
the
out
subject.
with
The
this.
Okay, I was like, what
subject.
is?
You just the subject.
Wait, before you get into that, I actually thought of you today too, because after we were having this conversation, you had left the gym, and I was like, well, we were discussing it. I was like, I wonder what question. I don't know why that just popped in my head. Every time we bring up a topic, I'm like, I wonder what Ahab is gonna ask, so I can like prepare an answer. But the one question that I thought you were gonna ask is like, it's a church, right? It's God's house. How could evil breach or like happen
inside?
inside the church? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's something that I was like, how we might ask something of that sort, or kind of allude to that topic. And so I just thought of you, just like
That's actually a good question too.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that?
On how
Yeah.
evil can breach.
Like how could that happen in God's house?
It has already.
Yeah.
There's really thieves in there, and I don't mean that in the stealing of money, but the stealing of your worship.
Well, I mean, I guess everybody that attends church, we're all sinners.
No, so I know what you're going through, the sinner out, but what he's talking about is how
evil.
can evil itself, and when you define evil, do you guys have a solid definition of evil?
I feel like it's almost like something that takes over you, and it's like
And if you want to leave it like
almost
that,
like a demonic presence that just almost just takes you.
And what I'm trying to get to on that is that there's a lot of people, and I've seen a bunch of, I guess, memes or information or posts, that sometimes people's favorite pastor or preacher is just somebody using God's name with motivational quotes. And with that, when you look, because there's a lot of people, I'm not going to say any churches' names or anything like that, because I don't want to give misinformation or put them out there on the spot like that, because the information is there if you look for it. But there's a lot of churches or pastors being accused of they're just using God's name for money. And when they preach, like people, like there's a pastor or I don't know if priest, pastor, somebody who's trying to represent a leader of God or preach, called Jesus a loser in their sermon. They had male strippers in a church one time. Like if you really look into all these articles, and like it just pops up on the For You page on the TikTok, because that's my algorithm and stuff. So I'll see a bunch of people talk about like, hey, what do you guys, if you guys haven't seen Catching Up with Christian News, this church was not offering, but they had male strippers present. They had this person called Jesus a loser in a sermon. This other person said this. Like there's a lot of already corruption in there. And that's where they'll say, and I don't know the Bible verse exactly, but it's in the New Testament where it talks about how there's going to be many like false prophets, people misleading people, wolves in sheep's clothing, and that's a big example. So there's already a lot of churches out there that are already being led by the wrong person, whether if it's an evil way, because when we define evil, it's an entity, it's an essence that's taken away from you, and I think that could replace that evil pastor, priest, where they're taking away from you, leading you that wrong way, away from God, because when you connect evil, you're talking about Satan, you're talking about the devil. The devil doesn't want you to worship him, he just doesn't want you to worship God. So if he can distract you from your relationship with God in a church and leading you a different way, he's already doing his mission, if that's what you want to call it. He's already leading you away from God one way or another, even though if it feels like you are next to God. Sorry, that was like a long thing.
On your last kind of statement, I just want to give a quick input. I was listening to George Janko's pod, and he was talking about how their topic was on people speaking in tongues, and why do people speak in tongues? And they were on that topic, and they were speaking on how it's a gift, and when people have that gift of speaking in tongues, it's a language that the devil doesn't understand, and it's for you and God to only understand. And I like that because he tied that into how a lot of people ask for signs, and I'm one of them. And I would, ask for certain, if this is how it's supposed to be, then show me, or something along those lines.
If this is real.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So George Janko kind of brought up the question of, or the statement of like, your enemy, if your enemy understands what you're saying, what's how did he word it? What is taking him, or what's, give me a second.
No, you're fine, because I'm trying to remember it too, because I did watch that. I know exactly what you're talking about.
He was talking about how You want to try to save me?
Yeah.
That's why I'm not speaking right now, because I'm trying to think about it in my
try
head.
to
Because
word
he's
it
talking
more
about
simpler.
speaking in tongues, and this is how can the enemy try to? I can't
think of the right word, but I know the rest.
Yeah.
How the rest goes. How?
listen.
Okay, if your enemy
intervene.
understands what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
what's stopping him from putting that sign for you
Mm-hmm.
and lead you in the wrong direction?
Mm.
Intercepting.
And
like, the
exactly, and
message.
you're thinking that it's from God.
Mhm.
So that's why he's very skeptical on, the signs. And I guess at the end of the day, you have to pray. And there could be signs that are out there and are actually from God. But at the same time, you just have to be almost kind of skeptical, I guess, in a way. But that's why you
You
have
have
to
to
pray.
study the signs that you see.
Exactly. So
Mhm.
at the end of the day, you have to study the signs that you see, because the enemy, which is Satan,
Mm-hmm.
can, if he understands what we're saying now, he can put that forth for us, a sign.
Manipulate.
Exactly. It's like a manipulation tactic from
Mm-hmm.
the devil. And I'm like, I never thought about it like that.
And let me plant something else, some information. So an input to your input on my input.
And sorry, my input
No,
was scattered, but
no,
we
you're
kind
fine,
of
bro.
got
You're
to the
fine. We're learning
conclusion.
as we go. Is we always think about praying in our mind, right? Talking to God in our mind, right? And I don't know if the information is out there. And forgive me if I'm not well rounded in this. Trying to even though say something that might not be well rounded in. But it's been said or the question is can the devil listen to your thoughts?
Mm.
And a lot of people worry about that as well. Can the devil listen to your thoughts? But the statement that's said is, you know what your dog's going to do, and you can't even read your dog. You can't read your dog's thoughts. So the devil already knows what you're going to do, what you're already thinking, because he's been studying you since you were a baby. He already knows what you're going to act. He knows what's going to get you frustrated. He knows your body language. He knows your body emotions. He knows when you're flustered or when you're frustrated, when you're going through whatever. So even if
triggers.
even if he didn't have access to your thoughts and your prayers inside your head, he still already knows what you're going to do, because we have our own routines. We already know what we have. We already know what triggers us. We already know things like that. And that's something I just wanted to input on that about speaking in tongues, speaking in this, trying to speak privately or speak out loud in conversations. Is that at the end of the day, it's I think only our trust in God that can protect us, whether if it's our thoughts in our mind or thoughts out loud or speaking in tongues, is because the devil has access to us like nothing.
Yeah.
He studies us. He knows our body emotions. He knows our routines. He knows everything.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, it's like God's trust comes into play as a first priority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the spiritual gifts, I think, too, are just like so, unique to each person, because not I've been in so many churches where people are so, I would say not under fire, but under fire from the Holy Spirit, I guess you can say. And not everyone I know speaks tongues the same. Honestly, it's like before I received that spiritual gifts, because I've also spoken tongues, and that's something that I'll share my experience. But when I was like before that, I would always kind of look around and be like, why do they sound like that? Why are they doing that? But the more that I got experience and exposure to those things, I was like, not like no one speaks the same. Like literally it's their own language. And then after I, received like a spiritual gift, it was pretty cool, because like I didn't realize I was actually doing it until after the fact. And then I was like, I don't even know what's going on, but I would just continue to pray about some of those conversations, and then clarity would happen. And for people who are more experienced in speaking in tongues, it's so cool, because like even at our church now, we'll have some of like, the OGs, the older ladies, who will like first pray over us in tongues, and then they'll go and interpret it in the way that they received the message from God. But it's literally like right on the spot, and it's not like they just come up. They're like, I just have to say this, and then they'll just speak in tongues, and then they'll be like, this is what he's saying.
What does it sound like?
Dude, honestly, when you have like noise cancellation in, I mean,
hear
to
a bunch
me,
of like muffled talks.
in the moments where I've done it, dude, I've been so in like the zone. I would say like I am like sweating. It's hot. I just feel like the energy. When you get excited about things and you're just like amped up. I would compare it to like also kind of nervous, like you're about to run
Cracked
the
out on
last
caffeine almost.
pretty much like uh preparing to run the last play of the championship game, and
Almost like a lot of adrenaline.
and
too.
you know you're gonna win. Like you just know, like all that adrenaline pumping, you just feel excited. And so like those emotions plus the noise canceling, it's just like it was just kind of like I don't know how to explain it. You're just in that moment. The only thing I'm picturing right now is like a room just complete by pitch black, but you're under the one light.
Dude, that's so crazy that you say that because sorry,
Realize that you like light bulbs.
Sorry, we're literally jumping from topic to topic, and we have like a,
Well, so after you say, are you all good? After you say that,
Yeah.
we'll jump to the next one. So
okay.
Like
Okay.
snowball down.
Yeah, so the way that you said that, it's just like this dark room, and then it's just a light. I believe I sent a TikTok to you on how it was on how to pray, and it says like once you reach that point, it's just you in this dark room, and you're like this little speck of light, and in front of you is just this like energy of
Like
just,
an aura.
yes, in front of you, and it's just there. And that's what it just reminded me of. I'm like, whoa. That, like, as soon as you said that,
Yeah.
it's brought me back to like that TikTok video of how to pray. And I want to rewatch that video because it was
Yeah,
really good.
now
But
you must.
did you end up watching it?
It sounds familiar, but did you send that a while ago or recently?
I think it was a while ago. It was when we were having
Like,
that
I have a-
conversation in regards
yeah,
to like prayer.
yeah,
and
yeah.
whatnot.
No.
But yeah, dude, that literally, and I've been trying to like reach that point, but everybody's, you know, it's gonna be different for everybody. But I'm like, wow, that, and the way that they like illustrated it looked really cool too. So I'm like, wow, I want to.
Now you're meant to.
Like, yeah, I'm like, I hope like
Yeah,
you know
that's
one
cool.
day I get to.
That
you know,
made me
point.
excited. That was cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Death penalty.
Yeah, so let's jump back to the conversation that we were having in regards to Bishop Marmar and the
Gentleman who tried to kill him.
right. So
Gentleman.
we're all men of God, and you know, at the end of the day, we're praying for this man to find the light, and hopefully he has, you know, a spiritual awakening, and you know, finds his way to Christ and whatnot. But that brings up the question of, you know, the death penalty. Like, what are your thoughts in regards to the death penalty? Because, like, is that a way to kind of end evil there, or you know, or are we going to be praying for him to find that light and to come back to Christ, or does it just depend on how bad or how far he went into his evilness?
That's such a great question, bro. I'm so stumped on that. Like, I have a
I know.
thought of it.
It's very contradicting.
Because in the
Controversy.
Bible, I mean, it says, do not kill, right?
Exactly.
Do not kill. But, because it's almost, okay, replace the word death penalty with hell. Right?
Mhm.
Away from God, you know, because hell is your detachment away from God. Your separation of God is what hell is.
So
But
we're ending a life to
Yeah.
where
That could be saved.
But my thing is like, is the prosecutor or the supporters of that decision, are they guilty for supporting a murder? Like, would they go to hell?
Mm,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
What is that called when it's an I have such brain fog right now. But when someone murders somebody
Right.
and they're not the one that actually murdered, but they were like involved. There's a word for
Assisted
it.
homicide? Or involuntary manslaughter?
No, that's not it.
That's where you accident.
I'll have to look it
Assisted involuntary manslaughter.
up.
Just add an extra word.
Typically, but you guys know
Yeah.
what I'm
Yeah, yes,
you know
yeah.
what I'm saying. Yeah, does that person,
Like they know about it.
yeah, are they sinning then?
I don't even know, bro. Like, I've never thought about that question. So I don't have like a solid foundation of a thought to even construct a sentence. I'm just
Yeah.
speaking out of my butt right now, damn near, with like the first thing
Yeah.
that comes to me. It's like
Do
trying to, because it's a
Yeah.
good question.
It
It's
is.
like,
Yeah.
I
can
mean-
Christians support the death penalty?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah. That's a good question. I mean, like, I mean, the death penalty in general. I mean, I don't think the death penalty it's not okay. So I don't believe in the death penalty, and the only reason I say that is because it's easier to die for something than to live for something, and I think like giving people the death penalty saves them from the pain and agony of their own consequences. Because it's like now you can't live with your guilt. Hopefully they feel guilty eventually. They don't have an opportunity to really think about like sitting in a prison for 200 plus years. Because they give
They
give
will give you
sentences.
extra.
Life
Then you have to
sentences.
work away or something.
Yeah, like
Years can fall.
I know they're still alive, but that sounds miserable in itself. Like I cannot imagine living the rest of my life from like this podcast. It's not gonna happen. Until the end of my
there's
days.
like stories of like where they're just literally in a plain white cell.
Like a 5x5, and that's it.
Yes.
Yeah, for the rest of your life. That sounds in like agony, dude. Like I would
That's why they always come
not
out
feel
swole.
cool.
They're just doing
Yeah,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it's like, okay, you go from the LA serial killer. I can't remember.
There was a bunch.
The Night Stalker.
The Night Stalker, yeah.
What's his
Jeffrey
name?
Dahmer,
Jeffrey
there's-
Dahmer.
Like, are you talking about like, do they deserve like the death penalty? Like,
Yes, or do they just deserve to be put in? Because at the end of the day, and then this jumps into politics because okay, we're gonna keep them in there for so long, and we're the ones paying for it. So it's like okay, well, it's like
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a tough one. I mean, yeah, like
How
I said,
about-
I'm gonna stick with it's
Let's-
easier to die for something than it is to live for something for sure.
I really want to go into that. Let's bookmark that topic because I feel
Yeah.
like that topic itself could
It
just
could
blossom
jump
an
into-
entire just one
yes.
episode.
So yeah,
Cool.
let's definitely save this then, and we'll jump back
'Cause
into.
I've never thought about that. That stumps me right now. It just,
Yeah, and that's a question that I kind of thought of, and I don't know where I stand on it either. Because before I'm like, okay, yeah, death penalty,
Same. No,
but yeah, and now that I'm coming into my faith, I'm like, well,
hold on.
hold on, because there's evil out there, yes, but we also have to give them a chance to turn to Christ, and it's like,
We're doing devil's work for him quicker.
Yeah, and then it goes right back to Bishop Maher about you don't fight evil with evil because killing is evil. and then
exactly.
you're
So
killing
that
evil,
quote
then it
is literally that quote.
Yeah.
That like I was just thinking about it, and I'm like, well, okay, well, what about the death penalty?
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll definitely
Yeah.
save that one for the next one.
Gotcha. So the next one we have is Dr. Phil audience laughs after trans activist says 3-year-olds know who they are. I know last time we had a podcast about the LGBT stuff, but that was more adult situations and biblical stuff. Now I guess we're gonna get into conversations about 3-year-olds and knowing
Yeah.
who they
Well,
are.
we kind of touched base on it, like teaching kids
Yeah.
this. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Dude, I don't mean to laugh, but I just think of my son who's 2 years and some change trying to
tie your shoes or
just like identify like who he is, because I just see him eating blueberries and playing in the dirt, and I'm like, I get where they're coming from, but also I don't know.
Here, let's watch the video and we'll see what.
Let's watch the video.
Well, if children know who they are, which they do, and their parents seek out the information to help them be happy in their skin, who are you to block them from doing that?
I think the important question was if children know who they are.
Children do know who they are.
At what age?
At 3, 4, 5, they know who they are. When they're swishing and swirling, they know who they are. I wish that when I started my transition, I was able to transition earlier in life because that helps you be more feminine or more masculine by using the blockers. That helps people blend in society more.
I say something about the idea that kids know who they are. I think the very existence of detransitioners shows that that's not true. Because these kids arrived at the clinic confident.
simple.
I kind
There's a
of
longer thing too that goes into it about to add to what he was gonna say is that if
They're-
you just take like puberty blockers or something at a young age, you're already basically doing chemical castration to your body, or you can't really recover from that. Mm-hmm. But did you wanna?
well, I was gonna kind of go off of what I was gonna assume what he was saying, and he, kids that are going in there feel confident that they know, who they are, and then later on in life they're like, oh, maybe I did make a mistake here.
Yeah.
and want to. I guess they were talking about detransitioning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like the statement that she made. I don't believe that children know who they are.
No, bro.
Especially at 3, 4, 5. As you get older, you come into finding out.
Yeah. Even when you're 16, you don't even know who you are.
Exactly.
Half the
You're
time,
still
bro. You're just
that's
infested with the
when you're
hormones.
growing. Yeah, and you're going through all these
Bro,
hormones.
at
and-
3, I was confident enough I could eat chicken nuggets and ketchup for the rest of my life and be perfectly fine and healthy. And if I did that, be freaking diabetic by age 5.
You wouldn't look like the way you do
Yeah,
now.
I still look like a diabetic. No, but like bro. Like that's radical to say that kids know who they are at age 3. That just looks like you want to say something.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say, I don't think it necessarily. I don't think they know who they are, but I do think it. You know how kids like don't really know the difference between good and evil. So if they're like doing bad things, they're not gonna know until they're taught. And if they're doing good things, they're not gonna know it's good until they're taught. So if like by that statement, I was just thinking like, okay, cool. If you know, I think that is just an excuse to like make it easier, I guess, because as and I don't know how to explain this, because as an adult, you can comprehend and you understand what people are doing when they like hate on you, right? Like you are like, oh, they're like throwing shade on me, or I said shade, by the way, throwing shade on me, or they're like insulting me. But as a kid, you wouldn't know any different, so it just makes it easier. It's not that you know who you are. It just makes it easier for you, which I don't think any kid at that age is concerned about. Like, what boy or girl, and wants to identify. Not trying to be mean or anything, but I don't know how to say that in a way that, I don't know how to make that make sense.
Well, I just kind of want to jump back to what you said on they only really know what they're, kind of taught at that age.
Almost like racism. I know it's a little bit erratic, but racism is taught.
Well,
Not just born
hypothetically,
racist.
if you were born male,
If?
but hypothetically,
yeah.
or not you, but just in
Yeah,
general.
no, I'm just
If
giving you a hard
somebody
time.
was born male,
Yeah.
and they were raised, dressing in female clothing, playing with
Barbies and dolls.
exactly, and having long hair, playing with doing like makeup and stuff, is that gonna affect them because they're born a male, but then the parents raised them as like they were a female? So does that like? I guess what I'm trying to say is because you're saying a lot of things that when you're younger is, what they're taught, because you don't know what's good or what's bad or what I should be doing or what, so.
Are you guys saying that because kids are empty vessels because they don't know the goods or bads? That
do you think that it'll have an
adults-
effect on their
Yeah, of course.
gender? So,
well,
not on their gender, but how they
on their life choices and their thought process.
Yes.
Absolutely, because children are empty vessels, and again, to reinforce what you're saying, they don't know the goods and the bads. They don't know. They just don't know. They don't have that knowledge. They literally don't have that knowledge in their head because they have yet to
Oblivious,
experience it.
is that the word?
Yeah, they're oblivious to
Yeah,
it.
they're
Yeah.
oblivious.
Naive, innocent. They're empty vessels, and if you feed into that empty vessel nothing but that child is a boy, but you feed it that you're a girl, you're a
Right.
girl, you're a girl,
I
you're
feel-
a girl. It's
right.
always gonna be I'm a girl.
It would just be easier.
Yeah,
right.
It's
But
programming
then I
almost.
feel like once they hit 14 or like 13 stages, it may change because that your body's gonna change.
Yeah.
So they can be like, it's been pushed on them that they're a girl, they're a girl, they're a girl. Then they go through these hormonal changes.
Testosterone kicks in.
Exactly.
Or
That
like,
kicks
wait,
in.
no,
And they're like,
yeah.
wait, hold on.
Or vice versa.
yeah,
Or-
estrogen
or-
kicks in,
yeah.
yeah.
So I don't know. That was just a kind of thought that
Yeah.
popped into my head. And
It's a tough one. I mean, I understand where they're coming from, but I think it'd probably be just easier for themselves if it were to happen younger because
Like,
they wouldn't.
for the person who's
Yeah,
speaking,
the person
they're
who's
speaking
speaking.
from their perspective, as in I would want this to happen to me at 3, but they're painting their opinion out loud. So
Yeah,
this
because
should
of
be for everyone.
how hard it probably was
For
when
them.
they did start, like how many confusing
Yeah.
thoughts, you know, understanding people's insults, going through like all this confusion, and you know. But if you're just, I know I'm a woman, I'm gonna be a woman.
Yeah.
Do your whole brain, like you're saying, when they're taught that, like, it probably would have made everything less confusing on them. That's kind of where I was getting at. But again,
You're
don't
speaking
know.
from more
That's
of an
how I was.
emotional standpoint, from understanding
Yeah,
their perspective.
pretty
Okay,
much.
I gotcha on that.
Ooh, that's a tough one though.
No, yeah, but I mean,
But as far as the
yeah.
statement goes, I have a kid, and I don't think he knows who he is at
Yeah.
all. As far as like identity goes, like you said, all he cares about is food,
Chicken
his
nuggets and
mama,
toys.
and playing with cars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
Question though, do you guys remember your first crush and how old you were?
yes,
How old were you?
I was, I think in kindergarten, first grade, one of those two.
Okay.
Yeah,
And it was okay.
yeah. I remember. She was my neighbor. I grew up with her.
Remember what I told you?
You liked me?
Oh, I told you my first girlfriend was?
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
Oh wait,
Yeah.
what? I'm confused.
Remember what we laughed about? I'll tell you after.
Okay,
but I
okay.
can't really say it out loud.
Okay, got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think first grade or kindergarten. I think it was like one of those years, but yeah, they were my neighbor. But I
Okay.
don't. It was just one of those things where I was like, oh, like I don't know. As a kid, you don't really know, but I knew, but
Yeah.
didn't know at the same time. I'm like, I just want to be around her all
Yes.
the time, and it was
So-
different from having like little boyfriends, because we're like with them, I was like, this is just different. That was my first that's the memory that I can think of where I actually felt a distinction between
Right.
relationships.
And I think mine happened like when in first grade. So I was pretty young, and I'm like, wow, she seems pretty cool. Like I hope my desk is next to her desk.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's
Like
what
stuff
it is.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, my thing was tetherball. I was like, I just want to go play tetherball
Forgot
with her
about
all the time, and it sucked because then they moved.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Tough, anyways.
Same.
But yeah, I mean, but even then, you don't really know what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
at my elementary school too, though, they did start teaching like sex ed in like 4th and 5th grade.
Yeah, mine was like
yeah,
fifth grade,
something like that, and that's when it started to make sense. But as
Right.
a kid, I would say that knowing now what a crush is and what it feels like, I would say that was like my first crush. But I wouldn't know that in the beginning. Like then when it first started, I just knew I wanted to be next to them.
So on the same topic, and I know we're kind of jumping around within the topic, do you guys think that I know I've said it before, I already have my answer, but do you guys believe hardcore that there's an agenda behind the LGBT activists, like to that extent? I'm not trying to be disrespectful to anybody's feelings that, is a part of that community, but to an activist who's saying 3-year-olds know who they are and they should be able to take puberty blockers and they should be able to do that. Do you think there's more of a sinister agenda behind it, or do you think it's more people who are overly consumed in their own emotions trying to saturate their emotion to the world? Like for this example, I think that's the route you were going for, is that person is how they would want it, how their life would want it to be, so they want to emotionally saturate the world with their emotions to possibly save anybody else who could be in their same shoes as them, versus more of a sinister agenda, because transitioning a child at that young of an age, why do you care about their sex organs? Why are you saying that they could be whatever they want to be?
Yeah.
And I say sinister agenda because I kind of dabble along the lines of almost pedophilia, because it's child sex organs. Like, who are you to try to support mutilating a child's private part at the age of 3 when that child can't tie their own shoe?
Yeah, I mean,
I know that's a heavy question as
yeah.
well. It's a very heavy and very sensitive subject too.
that's that.
And again, this
one
is
can run a
no
little deep.
connection to the actual LGBT community who actually made their own choices at an older age and everything. This is just more
Based on this video.
activists who
Yeah.
are around that route.
Well, I mean, and I want to just like resort to science. Well, you can do science, and you can also resort to our faith, right? Who we were designed to be initially. I think saying that is like, yeah, it takes away from that. I mean, we would, especially at that age, like innocence, like innocent kids. You know what I mean? And being a parent whose son's about to reach that level, I'm like, dude, like he's barely figuring out like what food he likes. You know what I mean? But as far as the question goes, I mean, if we're thinking about it logically, right? I mean, man, we don't even stop developing till we're what? Or we're not fully developed until
Like 25.
mid 20s.
mentally, something like
Yeah,
that.
Your brain
and
isn't fully.
and then women, you know, early 20s, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Women mature faster.
So like to me, I mean, I don't know if I can get behind it. I would love to hear the rest of the video and watch it to see what that other individual was saying. But I mean, as far as the video goes, that statement, I would have to disagree on that one. I don't think kids at that age know who they are.
Even at 18, bro.
Yeah.
Like even at 18.
I don't even think adults our age know who they are, what they want
Like
to do.
right now, if
Like,
I'm being honest, I'm barely discovering who I am. Like I just turned 26 back in November. That's already six months ago, 5 months ago.
yeah, I'm still working on things that I'm like trying to get comfortable with in my own skin, my own beliefs, my own journey in life, and like, yeah, I mean, like to say that statement boldly, you know, in that video is like, no, I don't know, I don't think so, you know, but that's my personal opinion because I'm like, I'm still character building, and we change all the time, and things happen in life too. I mean, traumas, experiences, people we meet.
I want to pick at your brain because it feels like you're festering something over there.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, do it. That was it.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking, and I'm gonna just speak in a general.
Yeah.
In general. So I guess I feel like when, you know, the LGBTQ community first, you know, started coming out, the first thing that they wanted was acceptance, right? So, you know, once people started accepting it, the next thing that, you know, the community wanted was, okay, we want rights. We want, you know, marriage rights. We want, you know, amongst those lines. And then with that came like, okay, then, you know, it goes from acceptance to, okay, we want
Rights,
rights to,
awareness,
stuff among that. And then it goes to like the community is still pretty small, like 2%, 1 to 2%. I believe so. I'm not too sure. I don't want to misquote.
Again,
but I
everything
know
we
it's
talk about isn't facts.
Right.
Sometimes.
I know it's a smaller community. I don't know why that just disconnected. But I guess where I'm going with that is
All these progressions. What's next?
I guess what I'm going with that is the community was very small, and then they start getting, you know, this acceptance and then these rights, and then with that you start getting voices that are, you know, sometimes they're way out there, and you're gonna have some of those people, and I feel like maybe, you know, this person could be one of those that are way out there because you have, you know, the ones that are pushing for LGBTQ to be taught in schools, and that's, to me, that's like way too, I guess, left. But I guess what I'm trying to get to is there's going to be voices that are for the LGBTQ that are way out there, and there's also going to be people that are just very kind of neutral. So there's going to be like voices that are, I don't know how to, I have it like right here. I just can't pull it out my brain. But yeah, I just feel like what she's saying is very out there. Extreme, and
Radical.
there's going to be that in every party, every community.
Republicans, Democrats, whatever.
Yeah, and I feel like since you know, you started with the smaller community and now they're starting to get a voice, you're going to have those that are going to be
Loose cannons.
Exactly. Yeah. And I feel like that may be, you know, an example of one of them. So that's kind of where I was going with that.
And to dabble a little bit in the teaching of all this stuff in the schools, right? And if we want to label LGBT as more of a spiritual, emotional topic, right? Wouldn't we say that teaching the Bible in school is the same thing as spiritual and emotional subject, but yet we removed the teaching of God back in the 60s, the 70s, something like that. We removed that, but now we're trying to input that as almost a replacement or But it's crazy enough to say is how can we remove the word of God out of school, but yet have the LGBT stuff in school when it's two things that are clashed so much together? Because again, the LGBT stuff is more about just what your sexual desire is.
So
Yes, it's emotion, but it's also what are you emotionally attracted to
right. So
Yeah.
where do you think it should be taught then?
Like, where do we draw
at
the line?
home. Like it would be the equivalent of if you could take God out of school, then the LGBT stuff shouldn't be in school. And if you want to have that in school, cool, have after school programs where people can go after, where you have your God stuff
Right.
and you have your LGBT stuff.
I agree with
But
that.
it's really unfair to remove God out of school, but have the audacity to put in
I agree with
LGBT
that.
stuff when it talks about sex, when it talks about all. There's so much more stuff about sex education nowadays that has nothing to do with actual sex education, like blowjobs and all this other stuff that
Exactly.
is taught in sex education. Like,
Well, I do have a question
Yeah.
too. Because, and sorry to cut you off.
No, you're
again,
fine.
But like, as far as like sex ed in school goes, because now they just teach you to have safe sex and encourage you to wait. Is that appropriate?
so yeah, no.
Well, I just mean for
there's-
Christians, you know, like
Well,
should
yeah,
they feel
I think
comfortable
that's fair.
with their kids learning sex ed when they're teaching like these individuals, like, hey, like if you have sex, have protected sex, or you know,
Oh,
these
I
things.
get where you're going with
Like,
that.
shouldn't Christian parents be a little bit more?
Well, public schools, you sign a waiver
Concerned?
in order to take that
Yeah.
course. Because I remember I had to sign a waiver
I did
and
too.
I did
about taking that course like that. So if you are a Christian parent and your son is going to go into that subject, you have to sign your waiver, and that Christian parent could always say no. And I forgot what they did if you did. I think they sent you to a different classroom
Yeah.
at that time. But I think they have that
I
ability.
was in that class.
Yeah, same.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh,
Like, the no
wait.
class.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I see what you're saying.
I was in class. I was in that class.
But yeah, I think the way I don't know how they go now, but I've heard a lot of like horror stories. Like what they teach now has like
Yeah.
nothing to do with just safe sex. Like they go into detail about stuff like things that like I guess kinks. They go into kinks now.
Yeah.
Not just how to have safe sex. This is the vagina. This is the penis. This is what birthing is. This is how a female
So
reproductive
Safe
system.
sex isn't like sex after marriage, though.
Yeah.
You're talking
And
more
that's-
spiritual.
yeah,
like,
No, that's
yeah.
what that's what I was alluding
Yeah,
to.
like as a
that
Christian, yeah.
A question is like they teach you how to have sex safely, but like,
but if you're doing it safely, then you won't. But, I see,
but you know what I mean? Isn't it against our beliefs, low key?
Yeah, because if you're having
Shouldn't
safe
that be
sex
considered too?
before
Marriage.
then
You're
I
still
think that
having
falls-
sex.
Yeah,
You
back
know what
into
I
the
mean?
Perfect Christian.
Huge controversy there too. I mean, another topic that we can probably dive really deep on, but just also food for thought. That just sparked up because we're
Yeah.
talking about this, but
To because yeah, we want to respect the time that we all have right now. I guess we could skip that one. Yeah, we could skip those because those aren't anything that's going on right now in the world. If that's anything that we could say. But I guess let's wrap up this conversation, like this topic, then we could just end the pod from there.
sounds good.
I guess the last thing I wanted just to mention it's the money's there too, for the surgeons, the surgery, and America is a business. That's all that I have to say left on that. It's like, of course, people aren't gonna say like, whoever the surgeon is to transition a child to do that, they're getting paid. It's not their kid.
yeah, there
And
has
at
to
the
be
end of the
some
day,
sort
are they
of
gonna turn down the
morality.
money?
Yeah.
Morality.
Well, I mean, no,
over
they wouldn't. Yeah. Yeah.
Morality over money.
But
Yeah.
then, yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's, money's there.
I'm like, I could really dive into it too. But
Money's there.
Yeah.
The money is there. Everybody makes their own fair shares because Big Pharma gets their estrogen, their testosterone, their puberty blockers. That's a money flow. The surgeon gets paid. If you transition, you're technically on a hormone subscription then. You have to come back, refill everything. Your insurance has to pay for it. It's money. It's more money.
so, never mind. We could dive into it, but it's like, it might be long. But, okay, so say you're a doctor, you're a Christian doctor, and, you have somebody that comes up to you, and you have, as a doctor, you can't really bring in, your personal viewpoints. Okay.
Before you dive into that, I will say you have to be taught specially in school to do transition surgery. So I don't think a Christian doctor would be in that situation, because a Christian person wouldn't go to surgeon school on how to make a penis look like a vagina.
Okay, what if they found Christ after school?
That's a better question.
But
Yeah,
then
but
wouldn't
then-
they be
and
able
then
to,
it's like, okay,
change
do I-
their profession? though,
Yeah,
within
then
the
they
doctor?
have to change their whole profession because it's like, okay, this doesn't align.
Well, I mean, like just like nurses, right? There's different variations
Right,
of nursing. Could that doctor then, become a different heart? There's cardiac. What are they called?
Cardiac arrest? No, I don't know.
No, like doctors and neurologists.
Oh, I know.
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Like changing their field, I guess you can say,
Mm-hmm.
rather than being I don't even know what you would call
Yeah, I don't
the
know either.
transitioning specialist doctor.
Transitional surgeon?
Nah, I
But
don't
yeah,
know.
I see where you're going for.
Yeah.
Do we want... What is it that you're thinking so much? I see you still thinking over there, and I want to poke your brain. Just throw it out real quick, because I'm just curious.
I had it, and when you pointed it out, it like left. But it had to do with yeah. Sorry, I do that a lot. Huh?
Bro,
Dude,
you were just
there just pondering.
Yeah, I do that a lot because I feel like all these
You know what
the
meme it
topics
gave
that
me
we talk about it
was
just,
the one with the two lines like this and the mouth like that. The one that's like
Oh,
straight face, straight eyes.
yeah,
I guess kind of what I was thinking about is like, okay, we all have different professions.
yeah.
At what point does it like,
Intervene
Or
with their
like-
beliefs.
yeah?
And
Because
I
I was
guess-
thinking about mine, and I'm like, okay, how does it like, does it intervene with like what I believe in? And I'm like, okay, not really. And then I was thinking about John's, and I'm like, no,
Oh.
not really. And then I was thinking about yours too, and I'm like,
just
but
the death
then,
penalty.
but there is a lot of jobs that can, like a doctor, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was thinking about how, doctors or like nurses, if there's a murderer that just killed like a whole family, but he also got shot a couple of times, but he didn't die. Well, the people that they got to take him in.
An emergency room.
I think they take an oath as well.
They had to take an oath to
Save every
help.
life.
Right. So I'm like, I don't know. That was just
Yeah.
what was running through my head.
I just want to grab a rocking chair and sit in your brain.
It feels like this podcast left us with more questions than actually
Yes.
answers.
Dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun.
I feel like the way that my brain works, I have so much, so many like the conversations
I
that we're
love
having,
it.
so many questions that run through, and then like when it's time for me to speak, I feel like my brain is running so fast that my words can't keep up with my brain.
Trying to
get there
stop on a
sometimes.
dime.
And then I stumble on my words, and then I'm like, okay, how do I word this?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to get better at.
But I think they're awesome questions. And at
yeah.
least, we will never run out of content or discussions to talk about on the pod as well.
yeah, that is true.
Also a
It's
good
just-
way to think about that.
Yeah.
Cliffhanger to be continued.
Congratulations on episode 15, ladies and gentlemen.
15.
Number 15.
I think after episode
Wow.
20, we make it past 10% of podcasters. The top 10%.
We are going to do it.
We're making it.
So,
Kai Sanat, I'm coming for you.
Guys,
Oh,
What's
I'm still
up,
coming
brothers?
for you. What's up, brothers? Bro, he's killing it right now.
What
God.
is it?
Sketch.
sketch, yeah.
What does he do?
He does
Special
like a
teams,
little-
special
yeah.
players.
Something like that.
He was a baller football player. Shout out Sketch. Watching his highlights. I see you, boy.
Wrap it up.
Yeah. Do we have any closing statements?
I'll get
I
back
love
to
you.
after that. God bless, ladies and gentlemen, and have a great night.
Baby, lock them doors in. No, just kidding.